If there's a lost franchise in Nintendo history, Custom Robo has definitely got to be one of those franchises. Our first time experiencing the game's franchise in the West was on the GameCube and as well as the DS. For some reason though, the games just didn't continue after that. It kind of just fell off. The first time I ever heard about Custom Robo was actually Super Smash Bros. Melee, as well as probably other people too. And I remember seeing the trophy called Ray Mark II and as well as Bayonet. And I thought to myself, what the hell is Custom Robo? Then I see it says Japan only. I'm like, oh, well that's why. Well, life goes on. Well, looking back though, knowing that we have the GameCube and DS version, what about the N64 game? We never got this game obviously, it was in Japan only, and seeing some gameplay, I thought this game looked really up my alley and I wanted to try it out. Thanks to the guys that translated the game, Star Trinket, it is now possible to play this game in English. Well, with that, is this game at all worth your time to check out or even play? I'm here today to review Custom Robo for the Nintendo 64. Custom Robo came out for the Nintendo 64 in the year 1999. It was developed by Noise and published by Nintendo. Noise is a very small developer, only consisting of a little small studio of like 10 people or so, but they're not really known for making a whole lot of stuff, mainly just Custom Robo, and they made some Japan-only iOS games on mobile. There is one really cool fact about this game, about the producer, Tsunekazu Ishihara. He was the producer of this game. Since 1998, he has been the president of the Pokemon Company. Yeah, the Pokemon Company. And at the time, back in the 90s, he actually produced all the Pokemon mainline games on Game Boy, Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, and Crystal. He also even had a helping hand in the game Earthbound for the Super Nintendo, and we all know what Earthbound is today. So those are some pretty cool, fascinating facts here, so we know this game is definitely under good hands. The story of Custom Robo, you wake up one morning and you're the silent protagonist, and you can name him whatever you want, and you go downstairs and your mom has a present for you. Well, this present is called a Custom Robo, and your cousin Shinichi's over and he tells you all about it, and he wants to get you into playing Custom Robo with all the guys at the club. You learn the ins and outs of playing Custom Robo, and the whole goal is to become the very best champion. Sounds like another franchise we all know. The concept of this game definitely reminds me of Gotcha Force, which is a GameCube game that came out later than this, and it's the same kind of thing. It's a bunch of kids and you have these little robots called Borgs, very similar to Custom Robo when it comes to that concept. Custom Robo, of course, is a action role-playing game, and in the main part of the game, you actually are in the overworld like you are in any other role-playing game like Pokemon or Final Fantasy or something like that, but then when you get to the battles, they're in a 3D arena and it's all real-time. It's not turn-based or anything like that. The controls in the overworld are exactly what you would think. You just move the control stick and use the A button and all that stuff. It's the same as any other game. The controls in the arena fights, though, are definitely unique. You actually shoot with the A button. This is your primary weapon you'll probably be using most of the time. The B button is your bombs, and you can shoot that anywhere you want to, away from you, and you actually choose where it lands against the enemy. The Z button shoots out these little small pods that aim at the enemy. The R button is to jump, and you tap R again in the air and you'll do an air dash. The C buttons also have a function. This is your physical melee attack. You do this dash on the ground and you pierce the enemy. Now when you do that though, you do have some slowdown whenever you do, so you gotta be mindful when you use it. Like games like Pokemon or Digimon where you have trainers and tamers, in this game you're called a commander, and you have one Custom Robo. In the story you have the Ray Custom Robo guy, and you do get other Custom Robos, but you only can play with them in arcade mode. Your build though is what's the most interesting thing about this whole game. So you don't have a stat system or anything like you do in like stuff like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. How this game works is every time you battle, you actually win the part of your opponent. And you go to this dispensary guy and you'll take that part and it'll create something new that you can equip to your Custom Robo. This gives endless possibilities to what you can equip, and yeah, hence Custom Robo, why they called it that. As you progress through the game and get more parts, you'll have more combinations you can do too. Some Custom Robos you fight, they're weak to some other things that you could equip. You know, you could have a gun that's like a vertical gun, or like a Gatling gun, or bombs and such. They have all kinds of different attributes and stuff that really can trump the enemy depending on what they have. It's really cool strategy. Before every fight, you can actually customize your guy and you can put whatever you want on him before every single battle. and you can see the opponent on what they have too, so that's very, very convenient. Almost every battle in the game takes place at what's called a Holosseum. It's these like little tables that you're at, and you'll have like this weird like warp things around you. After you've confirmed the parts that you want to use on your Custom Robo, you get into the battle. When you start the battle, you actually start off with this like little crane shooter thing, and you control it on where you want to shoot to. Now, you can shoot wherever you want on the map, of course, but when you land, it rolls these dice that come out. The dice, how it lands, depends on how early you start and you can actually fight. You can either be stuck in the ground with your head, or you can just come straight up and start running immediately. It's kind of luck of the draw, honestly. You'll get lucky sometimes, and sometimes you won't. It just depends. As you've seen in the footage, this game takes place in a modern day setting, just like games like Pokemon and Earthbound. Instead of castles and dungeons and stuff like that, you've got actual places to go to, like the club, you've got your school, the park, you've got a medical center where your mom works, and you get the whole thing. It's very relatable to real life. You'll be battling the same people quite often, but there's a lot of characters in this game, and they're all very different and have their own personalities. The characters you'll be around the most, like Shinichi, he's kind of a laid-back, kind of nerdy guy, small. He does Custom Robo, and he always comes up with strategies and gives you tips. Then there's Karen, and she's very outgoing, but also kind of stubborn. She kind of feels like the Misty of this group of friends. You've got another friend named Yuri, who's this little girl. She actually doesn't battle with Custom Robo, but she definitely cheers you on, and she's one of your good friends that supports you. You come across a lot of rivals as well throughout the whole game, and you'll see them often. The one, though, I gotta point out is this guy, Fukashi. My god, he is freaking annoying. He always thinks he's better than you, and he's just so bad, and you beat his ass every time. But he keeps coming back for more, and it's hilarious because he's just such an idiot. The graphics of this game are outstanding. I love how in the overworld it's like 2.5D kind of sprite work, but a little bit of 3D behind all the sprites. It really feels like a PS1 game when you're playing it at first. And of course the 3D arena battles, man, those textures look so good, especially when you get a close-up of your guy whenever you win a fight. It's really on par with games like Pokemon Stadium and Stadium 2. They also have very good textures for those Pokemon. This game does the same kind of thing. The music in this game is also very, very good. There were a few composers, but the main guy, Shinji Hosoa, worked on this game. And he's got a big history. He worked in Namco, and he worked on stuff like Street Fighter EX, and even Bushido Blade. This guy's got a pretty good track record for composing stuff for video games. Difficulty is not too bad with this game. It's actually not that hard, and you can get through pretty easily. Now, there were a few times where I did get stuck, and I did lose, which if you lose, no problem. You just start the whole battle again. It's not punishing like some games are, but difficulty is not a problem. If you keep on losing, you can actually lower their strength by 25%, so you can handicap them. So if you just want to play through the game and you don't want something too tough, you can always do that. But hey, I'm a real gamer. I don't do things like that. One of the best parts about this game, though, is definitely the arcade mode, which you can do that from the main menu screen, and when you go there, you can choose any Robo in the whole game, up to the point of currently where you are in the story. This is an awesome way to play with your friends and show off, your skills, and they can learn how to play too, so this game's not just a role-playing game, it's an arena fighter. It should be a crime if this game never came out in the West. Honestly, this is one of my favorite games I've played on the Nintendo 64. There's a lot of good timeless classics, but this is one I wish that we had as kids. This game would have done well. I mean, Pokemon was going on, and Digimon, why couldn't this game get released? It did well in Japan, and it just makes no sense that it never got released in the West. It had a great creativity going for it with the battling and such, and the story, which is not revolutionary by any means, it was still decent. You had good characters, and it was just like watching a Saturday morning anime. The only complaint I really have is there's no 4-player option, only one-on-ones, which they do fix in the second game, but the problem is, at the time of this video, there's no way to play Custom Robo 2 in English. Star Trinket was going to work on the translation, and they were almost done, but a couple years ago, they actually had to discontinue for unknown reasons, so currently there's no way to play it in English. Hopefully someday though, we will see that happen. Because this game never got released in America, there really is no price for it in English, so if you want to own it physically in Japanese, if you really want it, it's about $10 or so it's nothing, but if you know Japanese, good for you, but if you don't, well, it's kind of pointless. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to give it a like. If you got something to say, leave a comment down below. And of course, if you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.